Chair, members of the board, and the public that's here, and those that are viewing. As we start every board meeting, it's just a recognition of the frontline employees who are doing something every day on behalf of the citizens of Chesterfield County. And just, we only get to recognize that 12 or so times a year, but we could probably recognize it every day of the year if we met every day. Having said that, I'd like to have Matt Rembold come to the front here. We have some very special guests and very, very special guests in that a lot of times we recognize an employee for what their good deed and service is, but we also have a citizen who can speak in the first person for what that good deed was. So without further ado, I turn it over to Mr. Rembold.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, supervisors, and Dr. Casey. I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to speak to the board at our Everyday Excellence presentation this afternoon. I am Matt Rembold, Assistant Director for the county's Utilities Department, and today I'm joined by Mr. Calvin Gadet, a utility worker in our water distribution section, and Mrs. Denise Walters, a resident of Chesterfield County, whom Calvin helped in a time of need. Before sharing the details of Calvin and Mrs. Walters' story, I'd like to publicly speak about Calvin as a Utilities Department employee. Calvin has spent the entirety of his 19-year career with Chesterfield County working for the Utilities Department in the water distribution section as a utility worker. Calvin is a crew member whose main job is responsible for repairing water main breaks. This is hard work, takes place all times of the year, all kinds of weather, hot days in the summer, cold days in the winter, and as everyone in this room knows, our water distribution system runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. When we experience a water main break, it's an emergency to our water distribution section, and Calvin is one of the department's most trusted members when it comes to making those emergency repairs. Over his 19 years of dedicated service to the department, Calvin has responded to many emergency breaks. Recently, I'll speak to, over this past Christmas holiday, we experienced a water main break that jeopardized the water service to countless county residents. Speaking to Calvin and his crew members, Calvin sacrificed his personal time with his family over that holiday break to make that emergency repair, come out and respond so that families in the community could enjoy the holiday with reliable water service. It is important that I take this opportunity now to publicly thank Calvin for that sacrifice and his crew members who are watching back in the shop. For his dependability, generosity, teamwork, and overall positive attitude, Calvin was recognized in 2022 as the department's Water Distribution Employee of the Year. In a department with as many dedicated employees as our utilities department has, to be recognized amongst his peers for this award is quite an accomplishment, as we have so many employees deserving of this recognition. You therefore wouldn't be surprised to learn that Calvin is equally as generous in all aspects of his life. On June 1st, a regular Thursday afternoon after completing his morning assignments, Calvin drove his truck to pick up lunch at the Burger King just across the street over here. He placed his order and proceeded to the window for payment, and in an act of generosity, completely in character for Calvin, he paid for his lunch and then asked the teller if he could pay for the lunch of the woman behind him in line. Calvin told me later that God had spoke to him in that moment, that he needed to buy that lady's lunch. This act of generosity, it made a profound impact on Mrs. Denise Walters, who's here and would like to address the board. Just on behalf of the department and of the county, I want to take an opportunity to thank Calvin for being a dedicated Utilities Department employee, being an outstanding employee, and also being an inspiration to us for this act of kindness.
First of all, thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. My name is Denise Walters, and I want to share a story with you about how you can change someone's day with an act of everyday excellence. I was the recipient of one of these acts on June the 1st, 2023. My husband of 41 years had passed away on May the 25th. And I was headed to Morset's funeral home on Iron Bridge Road for his memorial service. It was noon, and I realized that I had not eaten. and that the reception was not until 4 p.m. So I decided to stop at one of the restaurants along the way. And just as I arrived, I received a phone call from a friend telling me she was sorry about Andy's passing, and I started to cry and turned into the Burger King. I sort of composed myself and placed my lunch order, and when I drove up to pay, the lady told me that the gentleman ahead of me had paid for my order. He obviously saw me crying. I immediately started crying again, but happy tears this time. It touched my heart that someone would do this for me on one of the saddest days of my life. He saw that I was upset and showed compassion to a complete stranger. I am so thankful that there was a phone number on his truck to call with comments. Usually people call that number with complaints. But I was determined that this man should be recognized for his kind gesture. A few days later, I called the number, told my story to someone at the Chesterfield County Board of Utilities. The next week, I received a call back from Matt Rimbold to let me know that this was one of his employees who brought my lunch. And just on a sidebar, it was just a kid's meal, but that doesn't matter. His name is Calvin Godet. Matt was not at all surprised. He told me what a kind and caring man Calvin has always been. I feel honored to have the opportunity to thank Calvin and give him a big hug. Keep living your good life, Calvin. You are a true blessing. And here's a little something to help keep you paying it forward. And you never know what you do for people.
My department gave me this for doing what I did. I want you to have this for the flowers for your husband. It's great.
You're awesome, Calvin. Thank you. And I just want to let you know, don't ever think any act that you do of kindness to someone else is a waste of time, because it just meant so much to me.
Sometimes you can't change. We got to change situations.
That's right. Thank you so much.
Board members, any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I just say thank you. Thank God. God touched his heart that day, and they both were blessed accordingly. And we see the results today. So thank you for being here and taking the time to do so today. God bless you both. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I don't think there's too many times where I don't know the board members want to admit it, but I'm pretty sure every one of us wiped our eyes. Both of you, the act of kindness and the graciousness in which you received it are truly amazing. And I want to give you a challenge coin from the Board of Supervisors. Thank you.
Now, Calvin, later on, I'll explain what that challenge coin means. So we'll have a little conversation. You'll probably laugh a little bit, but it's good. It's a good token. You know, I tell people we're very fortunate in Chesterfield County that we live in a great community. And you've just reinforced that. So thank you very much.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I can just add in. It's been said that what you put out in the world comes back tenfold. But that's not the reason why you do it. You do it because that's just the way we want to be in the world. But, you know, what you put out in the world comes back tenfold. There are a lot of things in this world we can put out tenfold. And put out in the world and comes back at you tenfold. So that's the way I live our lives, and thank you for setting an example of how that's done, and listening to intuition or any other voices. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just say it's interesting when God talks to us and then when we listen. And I'm not sure we're always listening, but when we do, we hear him. And when he tells us to do things like this, it brings joy to every single person in the county who witnesses things like this. These acts of kindness do matter. You know, just holding the door open for somebody behind you matters. Treating people nicely matters. Being polite matters. And you exemplify the best of our employees, and we thank you. We thank you, Calvin. Thank you.